guys do here? Oh, we're broad-based military research.
Broad-based military research.
Well, you know the military. Well, have you noticed some towers around here?
Cell phone antennas? Yes.
These are different. And the weird thing is that they all seem to be coming from the army base.
What is this, conspiracy theory time?
What is this, conspiracy theory time?
I think if you live in an army base town, you have to expect that there are weird things being trucked in and out.
What's that tower behind the house for, Eileen? Scott, what is this? No.
It tells us what to do. It tells us all what to do.
What is this, conspiracy theory time?
What if that God is talking inside your head, and it's smarter than you and me? But it can't get into the real deep parts of your mind. All of a sudden you just get these ideas in your head. And it's like they belong there.
What is this, conspiracy theory time?
The computer talks to you. Tells you to do things, doesn't it?
I think you've seen one too many movies.
I think you've seen one too many movies.
This was no cleaning. It was way more vivid, more like an induced hallucination.
Induced?
I think you've seen one too many movies.
A joint project of the U.S. Army and a new generation computer startup company. A project which builds on the recent advances of neural mapping of the human brain.
What is this, conspiracy theory time?
Its intent is to directly, electromagnetically communicate with the brain, dispatching messages to soldiers in the field instantly.
What is this, conspiracy theory time?
This required a computer which could think like a human brain and understand it analytically.
What is this, conspiracy theory time?
An experimental neural network processor,
Cognitive computer that could perform parallel functions 1,000,000 times faster than the human brain.
What is this, conspiracy theory time?
Capable of monitoring hundreds, even thousands of subjects simultaneously.
I made this town better, these people better, formed and intended, safe from harm. I won't let you compromise that safety.
And we found a way to deploy its analog thoughts and to transmit them instantly via small microwave towers.
Hi, Scott. You coming back today?
I should be home tomorrow. Grid is functioning now, Scott. It's too late.
What is this, conspiracy theory time? It's not too late.
They were there before you left for Halford, Scott. They just weren't activated yet.
Hey, let's go.
The grid is functioning now, thanks to you, Scott.
Let's go.
You have our undying thanks. Undying.
Let's go.
The Outer Limits. The Grid. This is from 2000, the year 2000. This was an episode of The Outer Limits. So this guy goes to a small town in the Outer Limits episode called The Grid, and he finds out that his brother has been killed. And the whole town is acting weird. And they seem to be being mind controlled by these towers that were put in place by the military. So some of the side effects are headaches, emotional reactions, all of which can be controlled by the 5G towers, this network of towers that is surrounding this town. Now, again, this was in the year 2000 when cell phones were not even in wide use yet. I think we were only at like 2G back then. So we know that in reality, 5G was first rolled out and developed by the military. And here you hear them talking about the broadband network, or what seems to be a reference to the broadband network to come. And look at the towers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can count them. 5G. So in the episode, the computer that controls the town's minds It'll use any tool necessary to conceal its existence, even in one case, sexual seduction. And it learns to adapt like an artificial intelligence. They talk about microwaves, which is like the millimeter waves that they use now for the 5G. And this is the concern, that these microwaves are cooking people's brains. 5G represents the highest frequency of microwaves to date. So the episode wraps up with the protagonist, this guy, thinking that he is entering a sabotage code to try to take down this grid, right? But instead, he's tricked by someone who's mind controlled into entering a code that actually expands the 5G grid to the entire world. And look at the code that he enters. It's an inverted pentagram Baphomet. Penta means 5, as in 5G. So as you can see, more pre-programming, foreshadowing of things to come, fictionalizing the truth. You hear her make jokes about you saw that in a movie, or that's just another conspiracy theory. That's to discredit anyone who opposes their plan. Take care and be safe, you guys. This was from the 5G grid that we saw on this show, The Outer Limits. So it starts out with this guy. This is the protagonist of the story. He's driving into this small town to investigate the murder of his brother, who died mysteriously. So he drives to this small town and he's trying to keep in contact with his wife, and the sound is cutting in and out. So immediately you get the direct connection between the cell phones and the 5G. Then he drives by the 5G tower, of course, and it's a 5-pointed star, of course, right? 3 on top, 2 on the side. Then he goes into the diner and he starts talking to the locals, and everyone's acting weird. And as soon as someone starts to reveal the plan, this 5G network, this artificial intelligence, goes into their head, causes like a migraine headache, and you hear this high-pitched sound, which then corrects their behavior. Notice all the towers around here? And then she's like, cell phone antennas? Yes. And then, of course, they have to fictionalize the truth. So they show her, you hear her say, what is this, conspiracy theory time? This was back in the year 2000, you guys. This is how powerful this mind control is.
I think you've seen one too many movies.
Again, the cognitive dissonance. They rush to fictionalize the truth as soon as people start to understand the truth. So do you think that we're the first ones to get headaches from the 5G network? Of course not. But in order to fictionalize that truth that we're all experiencing, they put out shows like this to program you to write it off as something else, right? Oh, we'll just give you more Advil. Oh, we'll just give you, oh, you're just having migraines. So they can induce hallucinations. This is what we saw with the flock up people and, you know, these people going crazy for no reason. I believe that even some of these mass events that are happening are because they're controlling these super soldiers through the 5G network. This is how it works. They're probably testing a lot of that during all those flags that happened under the Obama administration. It was probably part of the testing program of this 5G network to control the soldiers. And this was what 5G was all about. Supercomputing power. They needed to get it up to this level in order to transfer the information. And that's exactly what's happening with the 5G network. And of course, 5G is all about microwave. It's I guess they're called millimeter waves. They're the most powerful microwave out there, which is the concern. It's like our brains are cooking. And you saw those mind-controlled people in the town, mind controlled by 5G. You guys, this is everything that YouTube did not want you to hear. Again, you saw the phone reference. They want you to know that this deals with phones. That's why they showed him in front of the phone booths, right? So he shoots this thing, and I believe this represents like CERN. This is CERN. This is the supercomputer managing all of the world's computers, all the algorithms. I believe all of this it's like a brain. CERN is a brain. So then he goes home to his wife, and he thinks that he destroyed the CERN device that's controlling everyone's brains through 5G, only to find that there are towers at his home and that are controlling his wife's mind. She then shoots him. Like when he goes to input the code to take down the grid, he's tricked into inputting a code that actually expands the grid, because these people in this town, some of them he thinks that he can trust and some he thinks he can't, but they're all under the mind control. That's the right-left paradigm. So I tell you guys, you can't trust the right or the left. And this episode actually demonstrates to you that you can control neither, or you can believe neither. Don't trust any of them, because they're all in it together. They're all under this grid, right? And so in the episode, that rings true. And the little girl in the red coat that he thinks he can trust is the one that betrays him. He ends up inputting the code that expands the grid. And look at this. Look at the code he enters, the graphic on the screen. It's an inverted pentagram, of course, the Baphomet, the Pentagon, 5 sides, 5G. It's all related. They disclose the truth to us every chance they get, and nobody wants to believe it. They want to believe their superstar. They want to believe their hero. In this case, their hero is Donald Trump, and all the conspiracies that he said he was going to look into have been blown off, which in your mind makes you believe that the conspiracies aren't true, because if Donald Trump isn't doing anything about it, well, then maybe we're all just wrong. See how that works? Then, lo and behold, I find out that while all of us were locked in our houses, Trump signed 5G and beyond. H.R. 2881. Wonder how Q and the Trumpeteers are going to write this one off. How are they going to deflect this one? Secure 5G and Beyond Act of 2020, signed by your wonderful president on 3/23. The day that the house arrests began, was it not? Final bill enacted, signed by the president. 3/23. This is going to be our thumbnail for this video. March 23rd. The final bill enacted and signed by the president. H.R. 2881 is a bill in the United States Congress. Bill must be passed by both the House and the Senate, and then signed by the president to become law. Well, the president just signed it. It's a law. Pass the House, pass the Senate. Pass the House on March 4th. Pass the Senate on March 4th. Pass the House on March 11th. So all this run up to the house arrest, the scare, all of this, and this is what they were doing behind our back. So, as we showed you on a previous video, we looked at the 5G maps and where 5G is. And it's nowhere to be seen around Mar-a-Lago, nor in the main part of Israel. But yet, he just signed a law to push it off onto all of us. Now, if this doesn't wake people up, I don't know what will. Signed by the president. The bill requires the president, in consultation with relevant federal agencies, to develop a strategy to secure and protect U.S. fifth and future generations 5G systems and infrastructure, and an implementation plan for the strategy. Now, many people thought, they were saying that they thought 5G was causing this whole thing we just went through, but actually it was a little bit different. This is what they were doing. So I guess they were on to something with that theory. But this is what actually happened. Such strategy shall ensure the security of 5G wireless communications systems and infrastructure within the United States. There's an actual law, you guys. It's happening. Assist mutual defense treaty allies, strategic partners, and other countries in maximizing the security of 5G systems and infrastructure, and protect the competitiveness of U.S. companies, the privacy of U.S. consumers, and the impartiality of standards setting bodies. Well, this is such a great idea, Mr. President, Mr. T. Why isn't 5G on the top of Mar-a-Lago? Proudly waving next to the flag. If this is so great for everybody. I can't believe this just happened to us, you guys. Can't believe we missed this. 2881. Did you guys hear about any of this in the news? I didn't. Did you see the press conference? I didn't. You know, someone said, what happened to all the patriots? I get a lot of people that come to this channel and talk all kinds of mess about what they're going to do. Casey, don't you worry. Us patriots are ready. I'm not telling anyone to do anything because that's not what I would do. And I keep telling people, you talk all this mess, but Skynet's in place. There's nothing you're going to be able to do. They're going to pick you off one by one, label you domestic terrorist, and throw you in a cell or kill you. Okay? That's not how you fix this. You fix this with information. You fix this by all that guts and glory that you have for that needs to be put to use in standing your ground psychologically and being able to formulate a positive argument and not be afraid to be socially ostracized when you interact with friends and family, so that they know that there's a lot more people that think this way than they know. And once they become a minority, that's when things change. Where were all these people that stood up during house arrest? Nobody stood up. So, this is what we're dealing with. What's wrong with my thing here? Hold on. Let's fix this again. I'm trying to set up my thumbnail here because this is unbelievable. Now, I think some other channels have reported on this, and that's great. I'm really happy that at least people are awake to this, and people are reporting on this. Enough people are awake in the truth community, I suppose. But there's still a lot of channels out there running interference for Trump. A lot of big channels out there still behind the plan, trust the plan, all the way to the hospital, the FEMA camps, and everything else that they have planned for us. Let me go in the chat for a little bit. I'm not going to be on here too long. I just wanted to give you guys the news. This isn't fake news. So, this untested technology that has proven to make many, many, many people sick, that the elite refuse to put in their little enclaves, is now going to be rolled out to all the rest of us. So, headaches, anxiety, depression, this will probably be eventually rolled out to all of our schools, according to this law. I don't know the details of the law yet, but get ready to have your brains cooked. This is it. And I think the bombshell here is that all this went down under the cover of the Kahuna Cyrus. This is going to be our new life. Oh, look, and right on top here, they have the gall. We're tracking CV in Congress here, while they just screwed us all with no toilet paper in the backside. While we're all having our food rationed, right? Because now they got limits on how much food you can get at the store. You're only allowed so many pounds of meat. One roll of toilet paper, I'm hearing. A whole government approach. National strategy. Wireless communication. A description of efforts to facilitate domestic, fifth, and future generations wireless communications rollout. Oh, they got a whole plan for us, you guys. 5G and beyond. This means 6G. This is what he was talking about. This is what Mr. T was talking about. A description of efforts to assess the risks, to identify core security principles of fifth and future. Remember I told you that this was necessary, that JCO, the military, and JEDI, which is the cloud storage upgrade of the military upgrade, of which Microsoft got the contract, who had ties with Mr. T going back decades. The Microsoft CEO, he purchased his jet. Okay? And I told you that the military were already doing domestic experiments and exercises during the California fires and hurricanes. Remember that? And I told you that in their... But what we're here to talk about today is Trump's Defense Department. And they've admitted on this government website that you can see here that 5G and 6G are necessary for the new JAIC artificial intelligence upgrades. And this makes sense because this artificial intelligence beast requires food in real time, data, our data. It will literally tap into the 5G, 6G network to gather infinite amounts of intelligence. And it needs this seamless speed in order for this to work. Now here's a screenshot from a government website Trump's government website that I was blocked from, amongst others. But I was able to get a screenshot of the part that talked about how JEDI, which we're going to talk about in the show, needs 5G to accelerate its efforts. I pulled the website up, I started reading the article, and I went to refresh the tab, and it said blocked. Probably by the very same AI that they're trying to implement. This is bizarre. Let's read this for a second here. The addition of JEDI and 5G will accelerate the Joint Artificial Intelligence Commission efforts, he predicted. DZ, this guy's on the team, also summarized other digital modernization efforts taking place. So this is what this is all about. Digital modernization. I hope that some of these larger truth channels can pick this up and expand on this. This is huge because this digital modernization will become our prison. The rule of law will be inescapable. And as soon as they have 100% efficiency with enforcement of these laws through Skynet, through this digital modernization tied into 5G and 6G, it'll be over. Then they're going to start making laws that no one agrees with, but they'll be able to enforce with 100% accuracy. Instead of wasting resources patrolling and all those other things, they'll let the artificial intelligence do it for them. This is where all this is headed. Let's keep reading. This fiscal year, he said DoD will sign a quadrilateral memorandum of understanding with NATO to integrate digital modernization with allies. Also this year, DoD will develop proposals for 5G network dynamic spectrum sharing and will begin hosting industry 5G network pilot programs at select installations, he said. You guys, we already know that the internet was made by the military. We already know that. And so now they're just taking it to the next step. Now let's keep going with this. Because on another government website I was blocked from, I showed you and read to you how Shanahan, another guy on this team, this JEDI team, he's one of the military directors, he admitted to already testing this AI domestically during the California fires and hurricanes. All you got to do is Google search Shanahan, California fires, hurricanes, JEDI, and the article will pull right up. See, they don't hide from this. This is the insidious nature about Google. The truth's out there, but they bank on people's stupidity and they bank on people getting stuck in the right-left paradigm to not realize what's happening. They disclose this stuff to us. We're just so busy on all these other topics that we're not even seeing the dragnet that is coming. Now, I also showed you how Google worked with the military and worked with China to help implement their social credit score system. And that this same Google are involved in our very own AI military program, consulting with our military, providing the AI used on the Google platform that is currently suppressing the free flow of information on right here on YouTube. Now, our government says that they're going to stop short of how China is implementing the very same AI that they are using and upgrading to. Well, there's another component to all this, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get back here in the chat. Thanks to the 141 people so far that have shown up. Let's pull up the plan. DoD Enterprise Cloud Strategy. This is JEDI. Okay? This is the other component to Skynet, artificial intelligence. Now, in order to understand JEDI, we have to understand JAIC. Okay? So I'm going to talk to you about that first. This is the Joint Enterprise. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, where did I go? Let's read about JEDI. The Joint Enterprise Infrastructure defense infrastructure. Contract is a large United States Department of Defense cloud computing contract worth $10 billion. Now, it's important to note, too, that they're asking for even more money to make these upgrades. This is huge. This is all going down in the last 6 months to a year, you guys. This is new and breaking information. Companies interested in the contract, this was in the past, was Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. After protests from Google employees, Google decided to drop out of contention for the contract because of conflict with its corporate values. But understand that they have a former Google exec on board with JAIC. Even though it's not in the JEDI contract, it's with JAIC, which is the overreaching program that is going to implement all this. So, this, let's keep going with this. Because the JEDI contract was awarded to Microsoft. So, JAIC is employing Project JEDI to prepare the grid for artificial intelligence by upgrading everything to a secure cloud. Guys, we don't even know what the cloud is. Now, here's where things get interesting, because not only is Trump pushing untested 5G and 6G to shore up the artificial intelligence program, he ripped this contract out of the hands of Amazon to upgrade to the military cloud, as you can read here. Microsoft was awarded the contract. Trump uses power to basically take it away from Amazon. Now, I'm not an Amazon fan, of course. I don't like Bezos. But you got to ask yourself, why? Why did Trump intervene and rip this contract, this military contract, to upgrade the military to the cloud? Why did he take it from Amazon, which was much better prepared for something like this? And why did he give it to Microsoft? Well, Microsoft and Trump have a very long history. And I'm going to explain that to you right now, after we talk about JEDI. Explaining the $10 billion military cloud contract that Microsoft just won over Amazon. Let's read a little bit of this article before we get into Trump's history with Microsoft. Questions about the Pentagon's Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, JEDI, contract has been swirling since news broke late Friday that Microsoft won the 10-year agreement to build U.S. government war cloud. They're calling it the war cloud. How did Microsoft secure the $10 billion project when Amazon was long seen as the frontrunner? What role did politics play? How will the Microsoft workers, already apprehensive about their employers' government work, respond? Another big question, how will Amazon respond? The company hasn't said whether or not it will appeal the DOT's decision. Now, this is a little bit of an older article because they've already appealed the decision, and there's been the courts have basically stopped work on this. A federal judge halted Microsoft's work on the project on February 13th, 2020. This was just a few weeks ago, a day before the system was scheduled to go live, awaiting a resolution in the Amazon suit. Now, this is interesting because this stopped on Lupercalia, the first day of Lupercalia, February 13th. Unbelievable. Let's keep reading. JEDI's mission started with a 2017 visit to the West Coast. This is all new, you guys, which included a stop at Amazon and other prominent tech companies. After the trip, the Defense Secretary Mattis ordered the Department of Defense officials to prepare a plan to modernize the department's tech infrastructure. In 2018, the Pentagon released its proposal. Although separate branches of the military intelligence community have been cutting their own cloud deals for years, the new proposal outlined a unified IT approach for the entire Defense Department, including classified and unclassified operations. So, Microsoft's tasked with overhauling DoD's entire IT infrastructure and creating a globally available and responsive network, and providing ongoing monitoring of issues like bugs and breaches. One of the Pentagon's chief goals for JEDI is the ability to apply modern computing techniques like artificial intelligence and machine learning to its defense operations. This is a key statement because it ties in this whole modernization and globalization of the military in with the desire for artificial intelligence, of which 5G and 6G is a very huge part. This is why they're pushing 5G and 6G. It's for total and complete domination. It's to finally bring about Skynet. The DoD's proposal also asks the vendor to provide tactical edge devices that can be used for the full range of military operations. Those devices are described as durable, ruggedized, and portable compute and storage, as well as modular, rapidly deployable data centers. So a lot of this has to deal with security. Obviously, if they're on the cloud, they need impeccable security. They don't want someone getting a hold of these machines, these autonomous machines that they wish to have available. You know, self-driving cars? Well, you don't think the military has self-driving vehicles that can patrol and destroy, just like Skynet? Of course they do, and they've talked about it. We talked about it in our last show when we were talking about all this. This is huge. And all they have to do is say that the machines became self-aware, just like in the Terminator series, to justify any kind of killing that they want, including you and me. So this is what's really going on. In July, Trump told reporters he was getting tremendous complaints about the contract with the Pentagon and with Amazon. They're saying it wasn't competitively bid. A few weeks later, his Defense Secretary Mark Esper launched a review of the procurement process, delaying the conclusion of the contest. And then ultimately, Microsoft won the contract. Now, there's more to the story, as I promised. Microsoft and Trump have a long history. Microsoft wins a massive JEDI cloud contract. Now we're going to look at this guy. Okay, because he is the new frontman for Microsoft. This is Donald Trump's new $100 million private jet. This was 2011. He bought it from none other than the now deceased co-founder of Microsoft. Paul Allen, for $100 million. This seems to be where the relationship began. So this predates his presidency. This was back in 2011. He was already tied into Microsoft for some reason. And then during the elections, Bing actually was one of the few people that early on predicted that Donald Trump would win across the board. Here's the article on that. Bing elections 2016. Who will win Iowa and New Hampshire? And there was some controversy behind this. The Bing Political Index. Bing being a Microsoft product. On February 1st, Iowa caucuses marks the next phase in the 2016 election. In response, Bing's election center will move up a gear to add predictions to the Bing Political Index, candidate profile, timeline, and more. In early preview, Bing predicts is calling Donald Trump to win all four of the February GOP primaries and caucuses, while Hillary Clinton is predicted to take all but New Hampshire, where we see Bernie Sanders winning. So, these are the Bing predictions showing Trump out front. Now, in all honesty, I don't know what everyone else and all the other indicators and predictions were saying on January 26th. I guess this was 2016. But this is what Bing was saying. They had Trump winning. So you got to ask yourself, is there another reason why Microsoft got the contract? Now I want you to listen to who the new frontman of Microsoft, what he's saying about let's plug my earphones in. About Donald Trump. This guy, his name is Nadella, okay? And he actually talks about the regime. He calls it a regime. Even though he's speaking favorably, it was a slip of the tongue. He calls it the world's regimes. You don't want to use that word in a democracy. Let's hear what he has to say. He talks about getting people to accept technology, and everything's just fine. Let's play part of this. Whoa, I gotta turn this up. Sorry, guys. There you go. Now you can hear it. Let's put the closed caption.
At all. We're looking forward to.
So he's working with, this is the new guy, Satya Nadella. We'll call him Nutella. Satya Nadella. That's really good on toast, by the way.
To the new administration and their agenda. If anything, we'll double down on what we've always done, which is.
So it sounds to me like he already, this is 2017, this is before they won the contract, right? This is before they won the JEDI contract, and Microsoft's already talking about working with Trump. You see how all this is going on behind the scenes while we're arguing about impeachments and viruses? You see what's going on here? Listen to this guy.
Is be a U.S. company that operates in the United States very responsibly, but also being a multinational company that contributes.
Multinational, I gotta pause this for copyright. Multinational company that contributes
Into every country that we contribute to.
Has the election of Donald Trump made you look how many jobs you're creating in the United States?
We've already created.
So they're creating jobs, right? And to me, this isn't America great again. We're supposed to have these jobs, I guess. I don't know.
A tremendous amount of high-paying jobs in the United States. We've contributed significantly.
Okay, so they're saying they created jobs in the United States.
Both in the state of Washington and in the United States, and we look forward to continuing that.
Trump. Does Microsoft see that they could take advantage of some of that? It could be a
deregulation that's going to change the game. But I think what is...
So he backs off of deregulation. The interviewer asks him, so Donald Trump's back, he's basically deregulated all this. Is this going to help you guys be more aggressive? And listen to how he handles this.
Most important for governments and companies is to work together to create a regime that allows more people and more organizations to trust technology. A regime that allows more people and companies is to work together to create a regime that allows more people and more organizations to trust technology.
Trust technology. I'll never trust technology. Why? Because you can't trust what their track record is. Look what Google's done on YouTube, you guys. Now, if Google, the people who are helping to make Chinese or take away Chinese people's freedoms, and they're currently discriminating against its own users on YouTube platform, is working with our military to upgrade military artificial intelligence, and has done several domestic tests right here on our soil, isn't this the writing on the wall? Isn't this it? Isn't this it? Now, I have a decode already complete on the film The Devil's Advocate. I'll be doing that next week. There's much, much more to this story. And basically, what's going to happen is I'm going to show you how The Devil's Advocate was really all about Roy Cohn and Donald Trump. It's full of references to Florida, New York, attorneys, real estate agents. Trump Tower is even filmed there. They even mentioned Trump's name. This was in 1997. I broke it all down. Now, we had decoded this once before. I've done it again, a much more thorough job, because hindsight is 2020. Let me go back into the chat here. Thanks to everybody that showed up. Let's close this up. I can't believe how asleep the truth community is. Everyone's stuck in this right-left paradigm, and we're missing the bigger picture. We're missing what's going on right under our noses. The modernization of the military. Trump has lobbied the NSA. He wants to reinstate the domestic spying program. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's right there. He wants to reinstitute the domestic spying program on cell phones and text messages. Why? Why would you want to do that? Why do you want to listen to us? You guys, we need to wake up, because all that's going to dovetail into what he's trying to do, this 5G and 6G surveillance state. That's where it's all headed. The biometric scan of your face that will happen when you go in to renew your driver's license with the new biometric cameras for national ID. They said that 5G was integral. It was an integral part of this military upgrade. Now, why would our network here, our 5G domestic network, why would that have anything to do with our military and their ability to accelerate and upgrade their military to artificial intelligence? Why would domestic 5G have anything to do with that? Wouldn't that be something that would be like overseas in the battlefield? Why does it matter that 5G domestic network is up and running? Because it's all for us. This is their own words. When there shouldn't be one truther channel left out there trying to defend Trump after this. If they are and you're still watching them, you need to ask yourself why. You're part of the problem. This is unbelievable. A description of efforts to address risks to the U.S. national security during development and deployment of fifth and future generations wireless communications infrastructure worldwide. A description of efforts to promote responsible global development and deployment of fifth and future generations wireless communications. Robust international engagement. That's a new world order. Leadership and development and international standards. This is going to be our prison. This is Skynet right here. Skynet just got passed on 3/23. The president shall consult with relative groups that represent consumers or the public interest. Private sector communications provider. Well, he didn't consult with us before passing the law. Not later than 180 days after the date of enactment of this act, the president shall develop an implementation plan for the strategy. This will be one of the last things he does. So this was the big thing. This was Trump's thing. This is what he did. This is why they put him in office, to get this passed, to leap the hurdle of 5G. Why would they pick him to do it? Because he has most of the truth community fooled. They were the ones who never wanted 5G and 6G. So they're like, okay, we'll get a guy. We'll put Trump in. He'll be the truther guy, right? Have him throw out some bones. Have him mention Blind 11 a couple times. And how he's going to have a committee to reopen that investigation, which he never did. Have him do all these different things. Have him say all these things he'll never do. And then put them to sleep, and then we'll get this 5G and beyond passed. That's exactly what he did. And you guys all fell for it. Not you guys on this channel, but a lot of the truth channels out there. National economic security interests pertaining to the deployment of fifth and future generation wireless communication systems and infrastructure. Identification. Then now you know why they're slowing the internet down during this whole stay-at-home thing. It's to just drill it in, right? So they got us all staying at home, overloading our Wi-Fi's, giving the illusion that the internet has slowed down and we need faster internet, and 5G is going to fix all that, right? You see how all this plays in together? And now people won't be so angry about this because we need faster internet, right? Comprehensive evaluation of full range of threats to and unique security challenge posed by fifth and future generation wireless. So they're talking about security, internet security. Of course, Israel will play a role in this because they are the internet security country, right? So this is going to help them. Communication systems and infrastructure, as well as steps that public and private sector entities can take to mitigate those threats. An evaluation of available domestic suppliers of fifth and future generations wireless communication. So this goes on and on. Let's do this. Let's have a little fun here. Let's paint. We're going to do a little Bob Ross exercise here. HR 2881. Let's try this. HR 2881. Internet security Israel. Let's just to see what we find here. Spin the wheel. Oh. What? What is this? Lo and behold. Wasn't expecting to find this, but here it is. Wow. Here, let's do this. 'Cause I can't see. Oh, the U.S. Israel Cybersecurity Center of Excellence Act. 2488. See the 88? There's your little secret code. It was in the other bill too. This is a different bill. What does this say? It's in the House right now. That was May 2019. A bill to require Secretary of State to submit a report on potential benefits and impact to the United States of establishing a joint U.S.-Israel Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. All right. Wow. That's about all we can say about it. Do you guys know what's going on? Trump, the Gemini man. And you know what all that'll mean in a little bit. It's not just his birthday and being a Gemini. There's more to it. He's the one calling the shots, even though you might not think he is. And as we all know, 5G was passed as law 7 days after the national lockdown. So why 5G during a lockdown? Well, I believe that the viral lockdown, we can call it, is a ritual foreshadowing of what will happen to us once 5G is in place. As we slowly inch closer and closer to what is going on in China. It's almost as if they're bragging. Like they're saying, see, we can lock it all down even without 5G. This is a ritual. And now, 5G, after the law was passed, will spread just like the virus. Can you see the metaphor clearly now? Let's look at this montage that I put together, which will help to explain it a little bit better. The Verizon 5G Intrepid connection. Now, the Intrepid is a ship sitting out in the harbor here in New York, or there in New York, very close to where I'm at now. And Verizon took the opportunity in June or July of 2019, before all this hit, to launch a party. They called it a 5G party, about how they were already realized that this was all going to become an international thing, okay? And they launched this party on the Intrepid. So you're going to see clips of this party that they launched, and they invited all the businessmen to talk about 5G. Now, what's the deal with the Intrepid battleship that is out in the harbor? Well, that same battleship also appeared in I Am Legend. And there is a connection, and it is undeniable. Let's take a look. So remember, Verizon is one of the 5G leaders to help usher in this 5G law. Remember this as you watch this.
Hello from the Intrepid in New York City.
So that was the opening. She says, welcome to the Intrepid from New York City. She's a Verizon spokesperson, and it's 5G. And of course, this is Will Smith hitting a golf ball, the golfer, right, off of the back of the bomber, which is placed on the Intrepid in the harbor in New York. This was 13 years ago. Let's keep watching. Now, you got to remember that Will Smith is also the Gemini man. And, of course, Trump is a Gemini. There's more to this. They like to montage these characters. Here's some footage from the 5G party. Verizon.
Business Group.
Verizon Business Group and Verizon Business Group.
And of course, here is Lieutenant Colonel, which we now know is coronal, is the root word for colonel. Robert Neville was, played Will Smith in this film. And I didn't see this the first couple times, but this Verizon building is prominent. Again, 13 years ago, bringing it back full circle to the present. This Verizon building is prominent as the zombie apocalypse proceeds across Manhattan. And they blow out the bridges to make sure that it doesn't spread, just like in The Dark Knight Rises, which part of that was filmed in Trump Tower. The bridges blown out. Are you starting to understand that this is a ritual? Let's keep going. There's the Verizon building in the left of your screen. I'm trying to slow this way down to be very thorough. Here's another shot, and another shot as Will Smith is taking his family with the National Guard to the extraction helicopter. And Verizon, this was long before 5G. This was right about 2G, maybe, when this came out. 2007 was like 2G or maybe 3G. Helicopter takes off, goes right in front of the Verizon. There's the one that's going.
Business Group.
There's a close-up of the Verizon building.
Verizon Business Group
Invited more than 550 customers here to find out how 5G will reshape their industries.
Now, they said 550. And there is a 55 somewhere. I can't remember where I found it, but it'll come to me. Here is the fireworks display that they did at this Intrepid party.
Customers got to check out several 5G demos and hear from executives about how 5G will unleash new applications, use cases, and immersive experiences.
Demos that we have here that really highlight the capabilities of 5G. There are ones that we have here tonight that no one's seen before, so we're very excited to get our customers' reaction.
So this was, of course, that party happened like in June of 2019, just last year, long before the law was signed. And, of course, Trump Tower is laid out like cell phone bars, signal bars. Okay? And that's not an accident. Now, back when Trump Tower opened in 1983, we were at like 1G, I think was the network. The network was like at 1G. So how could he have known he would be the 5G president? Because they already know. This is all planned out. And when you do the math on the number 83, which you're going to see later, I've got a whole section of the number 83 in this live show, you're going to see that 83 and 83 is 166. And this is where Trump's penthouse is on this building. So the opening year of Trump Tower encodes the floor that the penthouse is on. It's related. 1983 times 2, 166, and then 66 floors. His penthouses keep going. This is why I renumbered it, most likely, the floors in Trump Tower. So here's where we get into some weirdness, because this March 23rd date, the 83rd day of the year, only this year in this leap year, because we're in a leap year. Normally, March 23rd is the 82nd day of the year. But this is the day that Trump passed the 5G law. It was the 7th day after the lockdown began in America. This is a ritual. Let's keep going with this. There's much, much more 83s. Here's documentation showing that he passed the act on March 23rd. There's even an 83 in the name of the bill, S893, but there's more. Because on that exact day, oh, here's the 55. 55 years ago, on March 23rd, the Gemini capsule landed, or we're told it came from space, right? This is what we're told. Came from space, and it landed in the water. And the Intrepid, the very ship where they said 550 businesses, right? The very ship that the Verizon chose for the location of their party, and that Will Smith hit the golf ball off of, is the ship that picked up these astronauts, as you can see here. Now, if you're still not convinced, there's much, much more. But March 23rd, 55 years ago. Let's keep going. Gemini man, Trump, he's the Gemini man. But also Will Smith is the Gemini man. You see, Will Smith is basically a version of Trump. That's what he is. He brought in all of this. So, it's starting to appear that Trump Tower is some sort of Apollo temple. A 5G Apollo temple. And Apollo, the sun god, was born on Christmas. There was an eclipse on Christmas 2019 that actually marked the beginning of the first confirmed, identified scientific test that was done to confirm the virus. Let's take a closer look at the number 83, the Apollo temple, the Christmas eclipse, and the plans that they had for us for 5G all this time.
Symptoms resembling the early onset of rabies. 25 patients have already died.
5 times 5 is 25. Now, this is Will Smith checking the almanac because he has to make sure his watch is set perfectly so that he gets in before dark. Because if he doesn't get in before dark, the zombies will find him and kill him. And what is happening right now? We have a curfew. We have to be in before dark. And what's going on at night? What are they doing? Well, in the film, the zombies set a snare for Will Smith at night. They set a snare, which during the day, they all go to sleep. Will Smith comes out. He sees the snare, but he doesn't see it. He gets trapped in the snare, and he almost doesn't get back to his hideout before the sun goes down. They're chasing him with dogs and all this, right? Well, what do you think's happening with 5G at night? There are reports from what I consider the heroes of the truth community, the people that are actually out there getting evidence, visual evidence of things that the New World Order is doing, such as doing things under the dark of night, just like the zombies in the film, setting up 5G, putting it in the schools. And I have to actually offer an official apology to a channel. This isn't a blanket endorsement of him, but in the beginning, when Logic Before Authority was talking about them putting this 5G in, I didn't believe it because we didn't have solid evidence. And I replied to some of you in the comments, and I said, until we have solid evidence, we shouldn't be saying that that's what they're doing. Well, now it appears that he was probably right. That they're using this opportunity where they have us all curfewed and not being out to fast track the law that Trump passed on the 23rd to get 5G spread across the U.S. Now, I'm hoping that more and more activists get more and more footage, and we flood the internet with footage of this 5G, even under the dark of night. What is going on here? Don't break any laws, of course. Not endorsing the breaking of any laws. But if you can get footage, get it. Like if you can look out your window backs up to a school, look and record and see what's going on. Okay? That's legal. So, Will Smith is looking at this almanac, and as you saw, there was a Joker card inside the book, holding the place He's got a ruler. The Joker card is the trump card. That's what it is. All right. And he's got a ruler. That means the ruler is Trump. He's looking at these numbers, right? And in these numbers, there you see the 83 over and over again. Trump Tower opened in 1983. And this is the sun's distance. And so I dug into this, right? Because I want to know what that might mean. Let's keep going.
Already died. Dr. Neville has ordered.
And lo and behold, when you zoom it in, there's your 57 5G. Remember, this was 13 years ago. G, alphanumerically, is the number 7. So 5G is just like saying 57. And then, of course, you've got all these 833s going all the way down the page, and none of them are crossed out. So they've achieved the 57. They've achieved 5G, so he crossed that out. And this 833, as you'll see in a second, goes far beyond Trump because it relates to the Apollo sun god. So I went into Stellarium and I went, when is this distance of the sun, as you can see down here, 0.9833? When does that happen? It happens on Christmas, the birthday of Apollo. Now you're starting to understand what's really going on here. There was always much more to this than meets the eye. Just take some time to figure it out. What happened on Christmas 2019? Well, I hope you're sitting down, because there was an eclipse. And it made a smiley face under China. December 26th, the day after the Apollo, the sun god's birthday, a big smiley face under China. On the very day they confirmed the first case. Now, I told you this was going to be a summary video. Many of you have already seen bits and pieces of this information, but I'm putting it all together for you so people can understand what's really going on. There was another film, A Boy and His Dog, that was a precursor to I Am Legend. And it was set in 2024. And look at the explosion. It's got a smiley face on it too. Let's keep going with this. I want to show you the first confirmed case. December 26th, as the eclipse was going underneath China, a laboratory identified the CV from a sample collected on December 24th as to be most closely related to a bat. Now you're beginning to see how the ritual is playing out. Here is December 25th, Sol Invictus, which is also Dionysus. Dionysus is a version of Apollo. They are the sun god, and this is when they were born. And the enemy keeps trying to syncretize Christ with all of this to basically throw the baby out with the bathwater. Here's some images of the crown on Apollo, Apollo's crown. Now I know a lot of these deities have this glowing brilliance around their head, but this, you can't make this up. And there is the Apollo temple. Okay, notice these pillars, because we're going to take a harder look at these pillars. There is the painting, Apollo on his chariots, chasing Phosphorus, which is Lucifer. And we know that Trump's all about NASA and the Space Force. And he's met with astronauts. Now, this was from a comic from 2017 in which you see an Apollo-like character, which I believe represents Trump on the Golden Eagle, who is favored to win the race, and you can read what his name is in this comic from 2017. Now, I decided to look at how many days there were between when I Am Legend released on 12/14/2007 to when this 5G law was passed, and lo and behold, another 83 emerges. 4483 to be exact. There's more 83s. Don't you worry.
You don't recognize that. When they was scheduled to perform at a peace rally, gunmen came to his house and shot him down.
So, of course, this is from Stir It Up, Bob Marley, and there's another 83. Backwards this time. Originally, this came out in 1973, but on the Legend album by Bob Marley, that came out in 1984. Trump is 73 years old right now. And of course, Apollo wants to be the I Am. He wants to take the place of Christ. Remember the pillars I told you to remember from Trump's 66th floor penthouse? The Bible has 66 books, by the way. I believe that many of those were removed for the final deception. There is your crucifixion, the two pillars surrounding the Christ figure. And look at all these books stacked up beneath him. Now, there was a burning book ritual in the film Omega Man from 1964 with Charlton Heston. And they burn all these books. What's up with the book? Well, as I explained to you, the true pillars are the trees. Trees have rings. That was your crown. You came from the tree of life. But when you're born into this realm, this fallen realm of good and evil, we went into the realm of two pillars. Okay? The tree of good and evil. Duality. Okay? And when that happened, your tree was harvested into a book. Books are made of trees. And you got locked in a cube. A book is like a square. It's a rudimentary cube. When you unfold the cube, you get the cross. You find your salvation. When the cube's all folded up into a book, you're trapped. This is blasphemy, what you're looking at. I am, Jesus says. Well, they're saying I am legend. Apollo, the sun god. You can even see the cross on the movie cover poster. In the way that I am legend is spelled out with him standing underneath, it forms a cross. And of course there's Omega Man because the two films were related to one another, inspirations of each other. I am Jesus, I am legend. And there's a couple more zingers here. There is the woman, her name is Anna. And on her shirt, I guess we all missed this, but there it is right there. And of course, Neville is a colonel, which is derived from the word coronel. Are you starting to see the ritual now?
And what better way to end an event like this than fireworks over the Hudson? Back to you.
Back to you. Now, what does all this mean? Well, they were able to usher in 5G. It's here. It was passed as law. And too many people were deceived by Trump to stand up against him. That's the bottom line truth. Before Trump came along, everybody knew 5G was dangerous. 3/4 of the truth community knew it was dangerous. Now, all of a sudden, it's not dangerous because Trump passed it. Had Obama somehow got reelected and tried to do this very same thing, the whole truth community would have stood up and said something. But instead, we have a perfectly divided truth community right along with their plans. A bad dawn, Apollyon, and still people are locked in the duality, the right-left paradigm, still upset that anyone could ever say anything bad about Trump. This is a vector field. The vector symbol is an F with an arrow over it. This is from Wired magazine. As you can see here in the center of your screen, there is the F with an arrow over it. Let me blow this up a little bit so you guys can see this. Now, vector fields can be constructed out of scalar fields. Okay? A vector field is basically a collection of points in a space, and it's used to model, for example, speed and direction of movement throughout space. Here's the vector field, right? Now what you're going to notice, I'm going to do a page search here. You're going to notice the word scalar is mentioned in here several times as related to a vector field. Now follow me on this. So far, our key vocabulary words this morning are vector and scalar, because all this is going to link into 5G whiz, is what we're going to start calling it. So here we have the two operations, scalar multiplication and vector addition. Transformation properties of vectors distinguish a vector as a geometrically distinct entity from the simple list of scalars. Scalars, 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 and vectors are thoroughly connected to one another, and they're also connected to terminology associated with 5G whiz millimeter waves. Now, this is an article talking about radiation physics relevant to advanced imaging technology. Introduction to electromagnetic radiation. They talk about millimeter waves. Within, actually, was this the article before this? Magnetic fields, electric fields, electromagnetic waves. And if you look in here, this article will also explain that there's scalar technology involved in this. Do a page search on here for you guys. Actually, I think this was the one before this. Magnetic field vectors. Let's read this. There are different categories of electromagnetic waves, including X-rays, ultraviolet waves, visible light, infrared radiation, microwaves, and radio waves. These are generally characterized by their energy, wavelength, and frequency. Each of these types interacts differently with materials, but all have common characteristics. All EM waves are composed of two different fields, an electric field and a magnetic field. These two quantities are vector fields, meaning that they each represent force field. A magnitude and direction, sound familiar? Defined at every point in space. Both the E field and the B field can exert forces on charged particles and can therefore interact with matter. The electric field is expressed in units of volts per meter, while the magnetic field units of volt-seconds per square meter, also known as Tesla. So this graph here shows the relationship between the two fields. The electric field and the magnetic field. It's plotted out here on this graph. Note the electric and magnetic field are always perpendicular to each other in the direction of propagation. This is true when the wave is propagating in empty space and also when the wave is propagating inside most uniform materials. So these are your electromagnetic waves. Now, this is from iPad Go 2 from 2012. Now, to put things in perspective, this particular animation came out in 2012 when we were barely at the end of 3G technology and going into 4G, 2012. And here you can see the vector scalar equation here next to what appears to be a millimeter wave, splitting the brain in two, with, of course, the dragon next to it, the serpent. Now, what does this mean? Well, here's some other images of what a millimeter wave looks like. And as you can see, it's very similar to what we're seeing in this scene in iPad Go 2. Look at that. This is from Animating 5G Whiz Millimeter Wave Qualcomm. Let's play a couple seconds of this. Got it in slow motion. And they show what these waves look like, right? This is what our world's going to look like pretty soon. All of us tethered to these millimeter waves. Now, all of this, as you can see on your screen here, brings us to a particular story that reported that Switzerland was starting to pull back from its big push to basically be the world leader in 5G Whiz technology. This is the story that broke by FT, in which they claim that Switzerland had halted their rollout of 5G over health concerns. This was dated February 12th, just before Valentine's Day, and about a month before Mr. T passed his law that basically fast-tracked 5G Whiz technology in the United States. Now, they later went on to correct this article, saying that no, in fact, there was no moratorium on 5G installations, but in fact, there was other things going on. So we're going to look at that story. First, we're going to look at the original story of what was originally said, and then we're going to look at the correction that they made. And I think this was an example of maybe letting the cat out of the bag. So this is Financial Times. Oh, why would they let us see this? Unbelievable. Let's find it in a different source here. Tech Radar. They basically repeat these stories over and over again, as you know. Here it is, dated February 13th. Swiss regulators say more testing is required. Some Swiss regions have suspended the use of new mobile site construction for 5G due to health concerns. Country's most advanced 5G nation in Europe, with Swisscom and Sunrise among the first to launch next-generation networks. They were the world leaders and really pushing this on the rest of us. Speeds and coverage outpace other nations in the region, and the government itself is interested in 5G Whiz for applications like smart farming. However, Switzerland is also home to a vocal community of anti-5G campaigners, and this will be the new censorship on YouTube. Right now, they haven't really cracked down on people talking about 5G Whiz, but believe me, just like the CV, they are going to start scrubbing anyone that is against this, okay? Because they're going to roll this out. Protests have taken place in major cities with rural mayors declaring their desire to remain 5G whiz-free zones. Former Sunrise CEO has bemoaned the spread of fake news. Now let's get into the retraction and how they kind of gloss this over and try to fix the cat that got out of the bag. Swiss agency denies the ban on 5G whiz rollout. Let's read this article. This is the cover-up, so to speak. But in this cover-up, they still admit to some things. Denied calling a halt to switching on of 5G whiz over health concerns. This was updated February 14, so just a couple days after the other article came out. Since the original publication of the story in the Financial Times, Swiss Federal Office for Environment has denied plans for a blanket ban on 5G whiz in Switzerland. The agency said it had written the country's cantons, those must be like counties, about the placement of 5G whiz equipment, but the assertion that previous reports had made about halting it were entirely misleading. All right, let's see how it was misleading. Switzerland is one of... While some cantons had imposed restrictions on planning permission for the sites, it does not apply to the whole Switzerland. So they admit here that some counties or cantons had imposed restrictions on planning permission. Switzerland is one of Europe's leaders in the rollout of the technology, rolling it out to more than 2,000 antennas last year alone, with telcos promising the network would be switched on very soon. This week, the Financial Times reported that Switzerland's Federal Office for the Environment had placed an indefinite moratorium on its use over potential health concerns. It reported that BAFU sent a letter to the governments of the nation's cantons at the end of January and had now, in effect, called time on the use of all new towers. Under the system of government of Switzerland, the cantons license out the telecoms infrastructure, but the central government in Bern has overall responsibility for its framework. According to the Financial Times, BAFU said that it cannot yet provide universal criteria without further testing for the potential impact of radiation and wants to monitor exposure through adaptive antennas in depth, if possible, in real-world operational conditions. So they're still testing this stuff on us. This work will take some time. However, in a statement to Mobile World Live, a representative of BAFU said that these letters did not contain any recommendation to stop permitting of the base stations. Rather, it sets out how the cantons can proceed with the permitting and adaptive antennas until FOEN's enforcement aid on adaptive antennas is available. So they're adapting these to, quote-unquote, minimize exposure, right? So the rollout continues in Switzerland, but under different circumstances. They're placing their own restrictions, but they're continuing to roll it out. Unbelievable. So that's what I wanted to show you guys this morning. And just after that all happened, we get Mr. T forcing the law, signed the law on March 23rd while we were all in our homes to fast track 5G whiz and beyond.